forever is preserved in the heavens. But we do not make claims as our Muslim friends make, because they have pushed themselves in a corner, and now they're having to come out now and try to come up with explanations for things, as we will show you.
It's even worse than that, because the Quran itself makes that claim in chapter 85, verse 21 and 22. The preserved tablets that you're talking about are in the Quran. It's internal to the Quran.
Exactly.
It's also, the Quran itself makes that claim that it has never been changed in chapter 10, verse 15 and chapter 18, verse 27. And why does it never been changed? Because Allah himself preserves it. Word for word, letter for letter.
Chapter 15, verse 9.
That's chapter 15, verse 9. Right. So because the Quran makes that claim, Muslims have to make that claim. They're caught between a rock and a hard place, as we always say. So this is why this palimpsest is so damaging, because this shuts down and destroys that idea of preservation. It's obvious that the Quran was not preserved very well at the very beginning. Remember, we're talking about the earliest Quran in existence, the earliest palimpsest that we're going to get across. We're talking about the late 7th century to the early 8th century, late 7th century for the lower layer, early 8th century possibly for the lower layer, mid 8th century for the upper layer. So we're talking about, goodness sakes, we're talking about 70 to 80 to 100 years after Muhammad. You have two different layers with two different scripts. Shuts down chapter 10, verse 15, shuts down chapter 18, verse 27, shuts down chapter 15, verse 9, and especially eradicates chapter 85, verse 21 and 22. That's why this is so damaging. And that's why Muslims are they're suspicious. They are upset. They don't want the scholars to come to their conclusion. And so what they do, they say, Mr. Smith or Al-Fadi, this is not really substantial. This doesn't change a thing. We know that there's no doctrine change. There's no theology change. There's no practice. Let's see if that is the case. Let's just look at some examples. So let's go to the screen. Let's go to the screen and let's introduce it. So we have the lower and upper textual differences, comparing the Sunnah lower text with the 1924 Hafs text. So we're comparing the lower text, not the upper text now, the lower text, those 63 verses, with what we have in the Quran today. And let's just look at this graph here. Here you can see, this is from Hilali's book. She looks and she shows on the left side the lower text there, chapter 2, verse 87 to verse 96, and also verse 10, chapter 96, verse 105. Then you have chapter 8, verse 73 to chapter 9, verse 7, and also verse 16. And then so you can see all the way down, boom, 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 boom. There are the 63 verses that are there on the lower text on the left and the lower text on the right. And then on the right side of each one is the upper text. So you can see the upper text is not complete as well.
Right.
At least complete with what the cuffs we have here. But we're doing a comparison between these lower and upper texts. Now, what I want you to do, Al-Fadi, I'm going to go to the next slide. Look at the next slide here. And look and see what we see. Here is chapter 2, verse 88. On the left side is the palimpsest, the lower text script. And the translation in English is, and they said, our hearts are wrapped. But in fact, Allah has cursed them for their injustice, so little is it they believe. And the bi zulmihim, which is for their injustice. If you look at the Cairo text, the 1924 Hafs text, it's bi kufrihim. Right. So go ahead.